Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel today. Today we are in 1 Peter chapter 1, verse 13, and it reads like this. It says, "Therefore, with minds that are alert and fully sober, set your hope on the grace to be brought to you when Jesus Christ is revealed at his coming." And so today's project is this. And I really just wanted to highlight those words of set your hope on grace. And I think I don't know, it kind of just spoke to me in the way that we just live so much in a society where we're just not seeing people give other people grace. And maybe sometimes we're not giving ourselves grace when it comes to certain situations. And I think our only hope in this world and our only hope to make it through certain things is just to give people grace and realize we're all going through a bunch of stuff, and we might not understand it, but God does, and God wants them to succeed, and God wants them to have a great life, and God wants the best for them. And sometimes we just have to let go of maybe some baggage we have or some baggage that other people have maybe handed us, and just give them grace that, you know what, God's going to deal with them and bring them through it, maybe in a different way than we did. But just giving grace, and particularly, I know for me, just giving grace to myself that I don't have to be super mom. I don't have to be perfect. I don't have to ... fill in the blank. And when you can find a way to give yourself grace and find grace in your situation, I think it's easier to find hope because you realize I don't have to be perfect. And it's easier to hope in a future that's not being held down and that's not being just riddled with this perfectionism and this whatever your particular baggage might be. That just happens to be mine, and I know it through a lot of Jesus and a lot of therapy. And so it's really easy once I start giving grace to other people to be able to go, you know what, I hope for the best for them. I hope for the best for myself because I've given myself grace to let things just go, and I've given other people grace. I used to be a super judgmental person, and I know that about myself now because I was holding everyone to some weird standard that didn't include grace. And so I just think it's really important, especially nowadays when we're in such a society of judgmentalness and nitpickiness and all this kind of stuff, that we just set our hope in the idea of grace, both for ourselves and for others. So I hope you enjoy today's project, that's what I meant, and make sure that you subscribe and click the button so you can see videos every Monday and Friday. I'll see you guys later, and I'll check you out in the studio.
All right, guys, let's get started. So today we're going to be playing with just a bunch of alcohol inks on the four-pointed star from my Faith Impressions line. If you're not familiar with this technique, you can see I just added some drops to it. And then you don't want to fully roll with your brayer because that overmixes your paint. You just kind of want to dab it on there and then let it dry completely. And then to release it from our gel press plate, we're just going to add a thin layer of white acrylic and just give it a nice little smooshy onto our prepped Bible page. I apparently was talking to somebody at this moment. There we go. I was like, why am I leaving it there so long? And you can see you get this really cool, funky, just almost like stained glass kind of appearance using that alcohol ink. And I'm really just going to continue doing that same set of techniques, just adding a few drops, using my brayer to just lightly move it around my plate. This time I'm going to take a stamp and just add some texture into this particular one. And then again, make sure it's dry completely before I add that white paint back onto it. I've done another video of this with the margin plate. I'll leave a description. I'll put it in the description or leave it up here at the top so you can kind of go check that out too. It's just a fun technique just to get a cool, grungy, distressed kind of effect, which is my jam. I love it. And it's a great way to try out just different textures and different color schemes together. You can see I've done kind of a purple and a blue together, and then the other one I did a yellow and a green, and this one is a red and an orange. And what's super great about this particular technique is that because we are using alcohol inks, you actually are putting down a permanent medium. So once you, I'm having a hard time deciding where to put that one. You can see me moving it around a lot. But what's great about with the alcohol ink, with it being permanent and once it's down, you can add more mediums on top. You can add watercolors. You can do kind of, any other medium you would like, without having fear of it messing up your background, which is one of my favorite reasons for using this particular technique. Because you know me, I sit down and I don't always have a clue what I'm going to do, and so I like that this gives me the freedom to get a great background, get just some great color and some great texture and that kind of thing, without fear of messing it up later whenever I get ready to add whatever comes to my brain later. You can see over on the left, well, you might not be able to tell because it's well loved. That's actually a gel press plate. It's the 3x5 plate. I apologize. I stamped this one kind of up where you can't see it, and I realized that after the fact. Um, and you can also see I'm not cleaning my plate in between. I like that because it kind of gives even more of that grunge, a little bit more to the edges, and kind of gives little hints of other star-shaped colors in the finished product of other ones. So it's just, again, it's just a personal choice that I just like doing it that way, just to end up with something a little more funky, a little more grungy. I'm using the mini plate from Gel Press, the partnership they did with Ranger. I find it works really well for these mini plates from the Faith Impressions line. And you can see right where my brayer is laying right now, I just have an extra piece of paper that I'm just lightly cleaning my stuff off with, just in between colors and to wipe off some of that white. And so it's kind of funny. I got to this point and I'm like, yeah, it's a little weird. I kind of like it. I'm not really sure. So I went ahead and moved on to grabbing my Faber-Castell um, pens. Actually, I guess they're Pit Artist pens. And I'm just using my lighter gray just to give a shadow and just giving it that kind of little smear technique just to make my shapes pop off my page a little bit more and just to give them some depth and just kind of playing with it. And of course, this page is gessoed with clear gesso from Finnabair, like usual. I do like this technique as well because you are working with the alcohol ink once it is dry and you use such a thin layer of acrylic paint. You can actually do this technique on a naked page, so a non-gessoed page, and not have to worry about it bleeding through. It's super great for that, and I love it. You can see on this shape, I decided I needed a little bit more, so I kind of went halvesies and did green on one side and pink on the other, because I just felt like there was too much blank space. And then I'm doing the same thing, adding some more detail and just some more shadow and highlighting the verse, which, like I said in the intro, we're using 1 Peter 13, specifically the middle part that says, set your hope on grace. And technically it says, set your hope on the grace to be brought to you when Jesus Christ is revealed at his coming. But I kind of narrowed it down to just that idea, like I said in the intro, of set your hope on grace. And after staring at my page for a few minutes, I realized still too much open space, particularly in that corner. So I went ahead and just set it down. And I must have dorked something up because I'm holding it down now. Not really sure why. There we go. I'm not sure what just happened. And then there was a little bit left, so I'm just going to add that at the top as well. And then I'm kind of happy because I ended up with a little bit of kind of just this mixed patchwork, a little bit of everything. I've got some technique, I've got some solid colors, I've got some grungy. So yeah, super happy with it. I am going back in now with my darker gray right up against the shape. So I've got a darker shadow next to it and then a little bit lighter gray kind of coming out for it just to give it more pop. I love my Faber-Castell Pit Artist pens because they are permanent. They're slightly movable whenever they are wet, so I can put it down and then smear it a little bit so I don't have such a harsh line. But then I can easily go back and add more things on top of it and not have to worry about lifting those colors. Now I'm just going to grab some watercolors. I think these are, yeah, these are my Jane Davenports. And I'm just going to reinforce a couple of colors I have going on just by adding some splatters. Oops, accidentally got it on that right page, so I'm going to cover that up. And I just want to break up so much of that just kind of just plain white background, or I guess off-white is what it is. So I'm using a pink and a yellow just to kind of um, just give it some extra color. And I feel like once you start adding those splatters, it gives more cohesiveness to the entire project. And then I'm taking my white Sharpie, which is my go-to, and just adding, I started to do something in the corner, but it didn't work. Just adding a little bit of outline to the outside of it too, just to give a little more brightness and a little more pop against the background that I was working with at that moment. And so now I'm doing the artist thing where I stare at it and try to figure out what exactly needs to happen next, because, you know, that's how we artists work. So I dug through my sticker collection and decided did want to go ahead and do a full title and kind of how I wanted that to look. And so I started putting these letters down, which are some really, really old basic gray letters. I don't know if you're familiar with scrapbooking or any of that kind of stuff, but basic gray was around for a very long time, and they haven't been around for a very long time. But I like these colors, and they kind of matched with what I was doing. And you could see it took me 3 tries to get my letters right because I kept having to scoot that G over because my eyeballs misjudged exactly how big these letters were. And that E goes right to the crease right there. Um, and that you can kind of see they're blending in a little bit. So I'm in a minute I'm going to give you some techniques to kind of make that pop a little bit more. And then I am just using some other stickers. I believe these are from Echo Park. That's what it looks like right there. And if you've watched any of my videos, you know I like to just mix and match letters. So I'm using for my, I want to say not important words, but I can't think of a better word for it. Just the ones that I wanted Hope and Grace to be my most prevalent words. So I'm just using some block letters for the other words. That way the focus stays on my Grace and my Hope that I kind of use bigger letters for. And then I'm just going to go again with that lighter gray and give a shadow just around it. And you're going to see, I'm going to kind of do something similar like I did to my other things. And just using a light gray around the whole to give it some pop, and then go back in with my darker gray to add more definition, and then going back in again with my black Sharpie gel pen to give it that kind of final pop and that final almost a destination. Definition. The word of the day is definition. I'm loving this page. It's bright, it's colorful, it's a little, I don't know if haphazard is the right word, but it's just a little bit of everything, which is kind of my jam. It's got texture, it's got some grungy, it's got some splatters, it's got a mixture of different fonts. So I was really happy with the way this page turned out. And if you've watched, well, I guess if you made it this far, you've watched it. But it's not overcomplicated. Um, it's just the same technique repeated, what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, like 8, 9 times. And then just adding some definition and adding a title. You could even do this exact same layout with just using acrylic paints and not having to use alcohol inks, and just using any of the many shapes from the Faith Impressions, because there's a heart, there's a star, which is this one, there's a scallop circle, there is a cross. So any of them you could use to do kind of almost this kind of, almost feels like a patchwork quilt kind of feel. You can see here's where I'm going back in with that darker gray to give that illusion of kind of a shadow and illusion of some depth. I just like it, and I feel like, you know, it needed a little bit more shadow because they were still getting just a little bit lost. And so I'm trying in my brain to think, if I was the sun and I was shining through this side, where would the shadows go? I don't know if this is right, but it's kind of where my brain went. And just adding a little bit more black to give it some pop. And so in a minute, I'm going to add the date, and I think we're pretty close to done. Apparently I'm adding, oh, I forgot. Yes, I did add some watered down white paint as kind of that splatter technique, because again, it gives that cohesion, because now all the things have that white splatter. And I feel like it just kind of is a finishing touch to kind of bring it all together. I like splatter painting anyway. I'm a child of the 80s. I used to have splatter painted furniture. So I'm pretty happy with the way this turned out. I hope you are too. I hope you enjoyed today's tutorial and you will come back next time and do some more Bible journaling with me. Thanks so much for stopping by.